Welcome back to The Social, everyone. You know what, Mel? COVID-19 is a health crisis, a global pandemic for sure, but it also has had economic consequences.
Absolutely. There was the health part of this, and then there's the wealth part of this. And there's a lot of people feeling really nervous these days.
So we do have some questions, like everybody else, about the financial effects of the pandemic. And the best person to talk to about this, our friend, CTV's chief financial commentator, Pattie Lovett-Reid, is joining us. Hi, Pattie.
Good. Hello. I was going to say good morning, good afternoon to both of you. Right on the cusp. Thanks for having me.
You look great. I know you are also physical distancing, which is why you're broadcasting from home as well. We have so many questions about the health side, which we continue to tackle every day. But a lot of people are watching their wealth also whittle away because there's been so much movement in the markets and with people losing jobs. And there's a lot of shift in life in the last 2 weeks. What would you say have been the biggest movements in the economy over this last 2 to 3 weeks?
Well, that's a question that a lot of people are asking me because you've already alluded to the fact that this was a health crisis that morphed into an economic crisis, and now it's a financial crisis. And so the biggest thing over the last couple of weeks are the 2 million people who have lost their jobs. Businesses have been shut down entirely, not just here in Canada, but right around the globe. This is something that we literally have never seen before.
You're right, Pattie. And I run a small business with my husband, and the conversations that we've been having with partners and with friends has been like, have things stabilized yet? Have we bottomed out? Will things turn around? So have we seen that, Pattie? What is the answer to that big question?
It is a big question, Lainey, and I think the real issue is when you compare what's going on now to 2008, I would say it is a worse financial crisis. Having said that, there are things that are working in our favor. The government has stepped in. Central banks have stepped in. They have provided liquidity so much faster than we ever saw in 2008. The difference, though, is that there are a lot of Canadians who are in a lot of debt and a lot of businesses so close to the margin. They're concerned, even with all the amounts coming towards them, that they still may not be able to open their doors. Now, the wild card, and we're starting to see maybe some light at the end of the tunnel here, it's all about the health crisis and the coronavirus. In Europe, in the UK, what we are seeing is the number of fatalities not only plateauing, but starting to decline, as are the number of cases. What goes on there then comes over here to North America. And so when I look purely at a financial perspective, the markets, they're having a nice little rebound right now in anticipation of that. But until we get all the liquidity coming into the system, businesses back open, and an absolute slowdown and reversal, maybe a vaccine of the coronavirus, we're not going to see things get back to normal.
And when we talk about normal, too, it's such a big job. That's an understatement because you have to deal with the crisis at hand, but also you have to protect the future. So interest rates are lower. More and more Canadians will likely be taking out loans to help them sort of bridge through the crisis, borrowing money. But then, what does that do to our national debt? Does that mean that later on we have a huge debt in the country that accumulates?
Going into this crisis, Lainey, I would say Canada was in a really good position. Are we going to accumulate debt? Absolutely, we are. But I don't think that's what we worry about. What we worry about now is getting through this crisis so we have an economy to go back to. People want jobs, and so we're going to have to spend some money. I know we're in this low interest rate environment, and people are saying, what if Canadians continue to borrow and rack up debt? I'm not worried about that. I want to see Canadians borrow where they need to, or defer mortgage payments, or take out a line of credit to get the necessities that they need to get through the crisis. We will worry about that down the road in terms of paying it back.
Let's talk about $100 billion. That is the price tag so far of the government stepping in this sort of plus in this package to try to help Canadians get through this pandemic. But, like you said, plus it seems to be growing each and every week, sometimes a couple of times a week. And so how much could this potentially actually cost the government in the long run when you're looking at timelines potentially of 12 to 18 months? And is there a risk that we're going to go broke as a country?
Well, you know what? I was listening to a couple of CEOs speak recently, and there is some optimism. They're starting to see some signs that the stimulus that's going to be coming into the economy will work. What we don't know is how long businesses will be shut for. But once they start to open up, what we will see is we'll see a bounce back, depending on how forceful it is, will be depending upon how long they're shut down and when they come back. It's all about timing right now. And so ultimately, do these dollars have to be paid back? Yes. Could it take a long time, maybe a decade? Absolutely. But we need to make sure that the system is liquid, that companies that need loans get it, that individuals who need money in their hands right now to make sure that they potentially can pay their rent or go out and buy food, they have to have that money. So that is far more critical than this big debt that is developing. But don't forget, we went into this in a better situation than the other G20 nations. And in fact, we're kind of the envy of them right now.
So does that mean potentially when, all of these social, physical distancing measures are lifted, what could that mean for our job market at that point?
Well, I think that's a great question, Mel, because we saw layoffs happen fast and furious, even if they're only temporary. My fear is that we will not see the rehiring happen as quickly as the layoffs. And that has a lot to do with the fact that I'm not sure how the business landscape is going to look when we come out of this. So many businesses that were heavily indebted can't take advantage of some of the stimulus. The wage subsidy hasn't actually, that's not actually in their hands right now. And so the fear is that a lot of companies that would have been hiring back simply won't be in a position to do so. And so the landscape is going to change. There's no question about it.
It seems like it's not just if there will be a recession, but like a when. So what's the best case scenario in terms of recovery from recession?
You know what? I think you raise a great point there, because my fear going into this was maybe we'd have a depression. But it doesn't look like we're going to have a depression. We can work our way through a recession. And a recession, by the way, is a contraction for 2 consecutive quarters into negative growth. We've been through recessions before. It will take time. I can't tell you exactly how long, but it's certainly going to be a manageable process. And I do see light at the end of the tunnel.
Pattie, you have been so comforting with all this information as usual. It's so great to see you, even though it's through a screen. Thanks for joining us today. And you'll have a recap of all of our discussion on our website after the show. We'll be right back.